It's Christian, no guitar today. I went in and had some tendon damage I did trying to catch a knife repaired, so don't ever do that. I know better, but I'm not bragging, but I've got fairly fast reflexes. They're faster than my brain, which is admittedly fairly slow. So I had a very expensive pocket knife and it was closed. And I just dropped it in the garage and I instinctively scooped my hand to catch it and it hit the tire of my flat fender and partially open. And so that blade went about 8 millimeters in, did some tendon damage and stuff. And naturally that was right before COVID shut everything down. So they were able to stitch me up. But after that, it was like, good luck, kid. So yeah, got that done. So, yeah, able to make a fist again. Woohoo. But anyway, in lieu of any kind of fun guitar junk or anything, I'm going to try to stitch some photos over a video, practice my editing skills and see how I do with it, and talk about my 68 M715. So I bought this thing way back in the day when I was still the tech editor of JP Magazine. And it was for sale for $800 up in Boise, Idaho. The story was the guy who bought it only bought it because, well, he thought he was going to do something with it, but he bought it in an auction. The person who lost it, I think in a divorce, if memory serves, but anyway, he bought it. The guy who lost the truck in the divorce was using it as his contractor's rig. So it had the military canvas over a very, very poorly done pipe configuration in the back. Basically like muffler tubing, just to have something to drape a canvas over. And all the tools for his contracting gig were in the bed, along with like a big old 5-ton Braden PTO winch and all sorts of other stuff. And it had been converted with a 400 cube small block Chevy in front of the factory T98 and MP200 T case. Well, by the time I got up to Boise, Idaho to buy it, the person I bought it off of had taken all the tools out of it, had taken the small block Chevy out of the engine compartment. And so I bought it as a rolling, project. No transfer case, the MP200 was gone. The T98 was in it. The Chevy conversion motor mounts were in it, and the Chevy exhaust with dual mufflers were in it. But man, it needed a lot of work. And so I had this idea to get it ready. You know, I had, by the time I got back to San Diego, getting ahead of myself. I left it at John Kappa, my buddy's house, for a while until I was able to finally get to it. By the time I was able to get to it, John and I and Pete Trasborg had the idea to all take full sizes to the full size, I forget what it's called, the full size Jeep deal in Ouray, Colorado. So I gave myself, just a couple of weeks to get this thing done. I went and got a 350 engine out of David Freiberger's F-Bomb. It was the original 73 Camaro Chevy 350, and it was, that engine wound up being a turd, but I'll get to that. So I got the engine, slapped it together. I had to go find all the wheel seals and all the bearings and all the stuff it needed. The suspension was hammered and all kind of goofy. I want to put it in a back to stock spec. Redid the brakes. Trasborg and the M715 forum turned me on to how to use Ford E350 brake cylinders on the factory one. On the factory backing plates, you basically just hog out the mounting bolts a little bit. And I slapped it all together, got the engine in it, new fuel system, found an MP200 for sale up in LA, drove up and bought that. Thankfully it was good. Got everything screwed together, and I fired that engine up for the first time on jack stands while the wheels and tires were off, having the split rims set up with some new 38-inch swampers and tubes and flaps at a local big rig shop. And when I fired that engine, there was so much blow-by and oil coming out of that thing. I mean, that 350 was basically a two-stroke. Got the tires on it and took it for its first test drive. And in 7 miles, it burned a quart of oil. So it burned a quart of oil every 7 miles is what I wound up tracking it. And it just blew a smoke screen. Fouled the plugs pretty much on every drive. So scrapped the full-size deal up in Ouray and just kind of hit the reset button took my time building it from then on. So eventually, before TDS, I got a new GM 290 horse crate engine in it with a, if memory serves, Truck Avenger carburetor, and took it on TDS. Had a lot of fun on it. We did this JP magazine OD convoy with like all military vehicles, did that with it. And then I started, it was real sketchy to drive without a roll cage though. So I finally kind of went whole hog on the project, tarted up the 350 a little more, did like some Vortec heads and a better cam. And then I ditched the I ditched the T98 out of it, and I put a Ranger overdrive behind the put a Ranger overdrive behind the 350 in front of an SM465 that I had, and I mated that to a 3-to-1 Atlas. And so that's the configuration I wound up taking it to Moab with in 2007, I think. And I'd started to build a roll cage. Jeff Nassy, our publisher at the time, had an M715, and he had Off-Road Unlimited in Burbank build this bitchin' seating configuration in it, in the bed for, I think Jeff's could seat about 6 people, maybe 7 people. But I had a big family and I wanted extra seats. So I wound up using Corbeau buckets. I used 6 of those, and then I used 2 little empty race trim mini seats, and I wound up getting 3 across in the front, and then I had seating for an additional 5 in the bed, and full roll cage, everything. And so that's pretty much how I had enjoyed that truck. And it was my ice cream runner, and it would wheel, and it was great. Had a Detroit locker in the back, factory drum brakes. It was awesome. But unfortunately, in 2011, it was 2010 or 2011, I wound up having to sell it to put a new roof on my house. So it's raining cats and dogs here today. So every time it rains like this, I think of that truck. And so here's a quick little video walk around I did right before it got loaded onto the transporter and left my life for good. It wound up going to a shop in Connecticut who tarted it up for the new owner. He had the manual drivetrain taken out of it and put a Turbo 700 auto in it. Had, what else did he do to it? I think he swapped out the steering wheel, and he had the thing scrubbed, buffed, and painted. So it's all one color, and I think it lives in either Nantucket or in Martha's Vineyard now. It's his cruising to the beach vehicle. So if you're ever in one of those islands, I can't remember which, and you see a single stage, kind of, I can't even describe the color. It's not really olive drab, but it's like a brownie drab. M715 with seating for 8, you know, say hi to the evil trucks, because that's my old rig. September 15th, I guess. And the shipper just called, and this thing is out of here. Seats are in, harnesses. Top is on and fastened. Seat covers are on. Fastened behind the belt so they don't blow off on the interstate. I love jack, spare lug wrench. All there. Truck's in the same shape as shown in the ad. There's the hitch. There's the engine. Windshield's undamaged. Motor. Blue top. Power steering. This side, mirrors, glass, all intact. Good shape. Tailgate's bolted. Plate. And that's the shipper. Gotta answer it.